Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by sophomore on the Clemson women's lacrosse team, Paris Masaracchia. In her lacrosse career, she led Clemson in ground balls with 25, made the 2023 ACC All-Freshman team, earned ACC All-Academic Team Honors, selected to the 2024 US Women's U20 training team. Before college, Paris was on the Under Armour All America senior game, was a five-time Under Armour All America, was on the USA Select U18 team, and was a two-time high school defensive MVP, and was a USA Today Athlete of the Year nominee. I'm really excited to have her on today. So welcome to the podcast, Paris, and thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going?
Awesome. It's great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on, and obviously at the time of this recording, your team is currently undefeated with the game against Mercer on Tuesday. So, how has the season been going from your perspective, and what's your perspective on the team's performance so far this season?
I think so far the team's been doing great. I think we've been performing well. We've had some different lineup changes because of injuries. Some girls are out. But I think everyone's adapted really well. We've been playing our game. Been contributing. I just think we look good, pretty good so far.
That's good to hear. And obviously, from an outsider perspective, it seemed like there's like a lot of new players on your team this year. So how have you guys sort of gone to know each other and get that chemistry going, especially with the lot of the lineup changes that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we have a lot of returners that are playing, a lot of transfers, and then a lot of freshmen that are playing. So it's definitely a different dynamic. In the fall, we really emphasized like getting to know everybody, starting that bond. And because we are the second year of the program, we really focus on the chemistry aspect and just trying to grow that.
Now, you guys beat Duke last week, which was your first ACC win of the season. Talk about that win and your team's performance in that game.
Yeah. It was a great ACC win. Obviously Duke's a great team. All the ACC teams are great, and it's hard to come out with a win in any of those games. But we all, I thought, played really well. We contributed, everything kind of came together, and we ended up getting that win. So that was a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I need to ask you about that Summer Agostino goal, the full press. It was really fun to watch. What went on in that play from your perspective?
Yeah, that was a great goal. We got the turnover, transitioned the ball really well. I thought transition all day that game just looked really good. And then she got that shot off, and it was a great shot.
Now, your team is also currently ranked as well with a lot of expectations heading into the season. So my question to you is, how has your team handled the pressure of being ranked this season? Because it feels like there's a lot more of a target on your team's back this season compared to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Our strength and conditioning coach and our coaches just really emphasize like take it day by day, don't really focus on the rankings. All we can control is what we're putting in, and then we'll get out what we put in. So we really just aren't really focused that much on rankings because overall it's just a number. We just have to go out there and perform and better ourselves.
What's the biggest thing you've been trying to work on this season as you guys head into more of ACC play?
I've definitely been trying to grow in my communication game. Our other defender, Ari, she's a grad transfer. She is one of the best communicators I've ever seen. So I've kind of just been trying to watch her and learn from her and just grow in the communication aspect.
Now, what are your team's goals and expectations for this season? Obviously, it's to win an ACC championship, but is there other team goals that your team might have that fans aren't aware of?
Yeah, we have game by game goals, we have season goals, but last year we didn't make it in NCAA's. So we're definitely trying to get a bid this year, see how far we can go, just push ourselves and just win as many games as we can and play together.
Is there anything you want to see yourself individually accomplish this year?
Yeah, I would love to be an all ACC team member. I would love to be an All American. And obviously, like I have my personal goals, but really focused on those team goals and team before individual. So,
Yeah, obviously, when the team has success, that leads to individual success as well. It's sort of the
absolutely.
trickle down effect, I feel, is the way I would describe it.
Absolutely.
Well, let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So, you're from Nola, Pennsylvania. So, talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah. I started in first grade. So I started pretty young. My brother played, my cousin played, my uncle played. So it's kind of been in the family for a little bit. Obviously, Pennsylvania is a pretty big hotspot. So there were a lot of opportunities coming out of there. And then a lot of my family is from Charlottesville, Virginia. So I grew up wanting like going to the UVA games and watching a lot of men's lacrosse, especially because of my brother and cousin. So my first practice, I was like, when do we learn to hit? And everyone's like, this is not men's lacrosse. Like this is women's lacrosse, a little bit different. But yeah, growing up in Pennsylvania, I definitely formed a love for the game, especially like having my brother play.
Yeah, I feel like they should allow you guys to hit, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, definitely.
Now, growing up, who was your favorite lacrosse player to watch? Was it your brother or was it someone else, maybe a women's player that you like to watch as well?
Yeah. I loved watching my brother play. I definitely was so invested in all of his games. I was, the little girl like on the bleachers, like screaming, like cheering on everybody. But like from a women's aspect, I think it was Taylor Cummings, like a lot of different people. She wanted to be the best, she worked to be the best, and she is one of the best. So I always just looked up to her for that. And a lot of my teammates and I would always go to like the Maryland games and watch them play. So that was always cool.
Now, before college, you played for your high school team at Bishop Shanahan High School. So, talk about your high school lacrosse experience and sort of what you took away from that.
Yeah. Yeah, at Shanahan, my coach was Casey Small. He's also the Shake School owner. So he taught us a lot of good lessons, like on the field and off the field. One of our favorite like sayings is our brand. We would have like on our shooting shirts. And basically he would just talk about how we represent ourselves, but we also represent our team. We represent our school and just so much more than ourselves. So we have to choose how we want that to look and what values we have. And so I feel like just our brand and talking about that and having that, I really learned and grew from.
What's your favorite memory from your high school lacrosse days?
In one of our state playoff games, we were down by 6 going to half, and nobody was looking too optimistic about that game, but we ended up winning with like 10 seconds left on the clock. So that was a huge game for us.
I also want to ask you this, and I'm not saying this because you're on the podcast with me right now, but I truly think you're one of the best defenders in the ACC. It's very fun watching your game from a fan perspective. So I'm curious in high school how you sort of worked on becoming a good defender because you received a lot of accolades for that when you were in high school.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So I definitely would have to dial back some of my play. I've always been a really aggressive defender. I'm always thrown some different checks that, some of them I pick up from the men's game and like alter them so that they're legal in the women's game. But I definitely had to alter my play a little bit for those high school rules. But I've always just been super aggressive and a super physical defender. So I feel like I got to carry that on to college and just kind of elevate that.
Now, how did your club and high school lacrosse experience sort of help prepare you for college lacrosse with Clemson?
My coaches in club and high school, they always just recommended trying out for different teams, doing all these different camps, and just get comfortable being uncomfortable. That was one of their biggest things. So then when I came to college and I was in these uncomfortable positions playing against some like amazing girls, I was okay with that and I knew how to react in different situations.
Well, let's talk about your recruiting process now. What made you want to go to Clemson versus other schools you might have looked at, especially since Clemson was just starting off when you were being recruited. They hadn't even played a game yet. So I'm curious how you sort of how they convinced you to go there and be a part of that program.
Yeah, just like having the opportunity to help build a program and, just from the ground up was something super exciting. And being that team one that everyone talked about was something that I just thought it was amazing. And we got to build a culture and we got to show everybody what Clemson lacrosse is gonna be like. And Clemson as a whole just supports their student athletes so much. They have so many different resources that so many other schools don't have, especially for female athletes here. And when you like step on campus at Clemson, it's your family immediately. You don't have to be here for 2 years or whatever. As soon as you step on, like everyone is embracing you. Everyone wants to see you succeed. So I feel like that really drew me to Clemson.
Yeah, what's the dynamic like between the other athletes at Clemson? Because I only know the football team and you guys basically, so I'm curious how that works out.
Yeah, a lot of our athletes are really close. A majority of us actually come in the summer and we do summer session. So we get to meet all of the athletes in our grade, which is awesome. And then we have like study hall, we all get to meet each other. And everyone just goes to each other's games. We're super supportive and we only want to see the best for each other.
That's awesome. What's your favorite games to go see? Is it football, especially on Saturday afternoons? It looks like a great stadium from TV.
Oh, it's amazing. Death Valley is a great place to be. It's an electric vibe.
I was watching the Notre Dame game, and that seemed like to be the best one to go to. I don't know if you were there or not for that
Yes,
one.
I was. Yeah. I don't miss a football game. Everyone loves football. Football's a huge deal here. So they're definitely exciting to go to.
That's awesome. We'll see what happens next season because I know it's a bit of a down year for you guys, but the playoffs
Yeah.
are expansive, so you guys have a probably good chance to make it next season.
Oh yeah. I'm hoping we can step it up a little bit for next year.
Now, getting back to the lacrosse team now, what's been like the biggest adjustment you've had to make to college lacrosse?
Just the speed of play and the physicality. Like I said, physicality is something that I embrace. I really like being a physical defender. But they're quicker, they're faster, they're stronger. So you just have to adjust to that. Your attackers, they're shifty. So it's just a lot of adjustment in the speed aspect.
Yeah, and it also must be nice though, like at least in practice, that you're going against some really good attackers, so it helps prepare you for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, how have you learned to balance both lacrosse and academics at such a high level?
So in high school, I went to high school an hour and a half from where I live. So I was in the car a lot. So I learned how to use my time wisely. I learned to get my homework done, to do all these different things like when I had time to do it. And then just the fact that we're student athletes, so you have to be successful in the classroom to be successful in the field.
And obviously, you play in the ACC, and it's kind of a unique situation where you get to start up a program in arguably the best conference for women's lacrosse. So, talk about what it's like playing in the ACC and just the competition that you guys face each game.
Yeah. I mean, we're playing against the best girls in the country, which is awesome. I mean, every game is going to be a fight, every game's going to be competitive, and every team's different. So just going out there every game, seeing who we're up against, and just the competition level is great. Everybody, they're gritty, everyone wants to win, and it's just super exciting to be out on that field.
Now, your freshman year, you guys went 12-6. Really good first year for a program, but unfortunately, like you said, you guys didn't make it to the national tournament. So I'm curious what you took away from your freshman year, both positively and negatively.
Yeah, just being a first year program and having that record is just, it's amazing. And it shows that Clemson is providing us all the resources we need to be successful. And we have a great coaching staff, and we have great players. But we're still hungry. We didn't make the tournament. It's something we want to do. I mean, we're happy with our record from last year, but we're not satisfied yet.
Now, what do you think's been the biggest improvement you've made to your game up to this point since your freshman season?
Mhm. I think IQ wise, my game has grown so much. Our coaches are constantly emphasizing the importance of play the play, know what to do in different situations, because not all situations are going to look the same. And we're not going to be able to rep the exact team's offense and scout. So just knowing what to do in different situations.
I am curious about this. You talked about the adjustment of college lacrosse and how the attackers are more shifty and physical. So, who is the toughest attacker to face against in the ACC?
I'm gonna say Emma Ward. I was on her last year. She's quick, she's strong, and she's gonna get the shot off from anywhere.
That's good, but there's so many. It's like I
Oh
feel like
yeah,
every game, like Casey Choma on Notre
absolutely.
Dame, and then all the BC players. That's I feel like as a defender, it's like oh my gosh, like we just don't get a night off each game.
Oh no, yeah. Every game is definitely a fight. There's so many great attackers on the field. There's so many great middies and defenders. So it's just great to go up against them and see where we're at and learn and grow from that.
So let's transition now to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the field. So first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
I think that's the hardest question you've asked, honestly. That's such a hard one. I don't think I could pick though.
Hmm.
I
It could
don't,
be someone in your life too,
mm,
like a cousin or
in my
someone
life,
like
my
that.
sister.
Okay. See,
It's
that makes
she
sense.
knows me too well. She knows me
Hmm.
almost like too well. But I think that would be a good one.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a brother, so I can't pick someone in my family because don't think that would work out. But I would say probably like Matt McConaughey. I think he's a cool guy. So, and I think I can brag to people that he played me in a movie. So I'll go with him.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Um, the most interesting thing is probably the BC Northwestern game. Most interesting thing I've seen. It was a great game and a national championship rematch, so it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to watch. I didn't get the chance to see it live because I was at another game, but I recorded and I'll be watching most of it later today. But it looked like a great game, and I feel like those two teams
Freezing.
have a. Oh yeah, it was freezing. I was in. Yeah, it was. That's the one thing about lacrosse that always makes me laugh is in the beginning of the season, it's like the coldest temperatures ever, but then at the end of the season, it's like some of the warmest temperatures ever. Like you don't
Exactly.
get that in other sports, I feel like.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's nice being in South Carolina. It doesn't get too cold.
Yeah, but how do you guys adapt to that when you have to go up to the cold in the road games early in the season?
We haven't had that many really cold games yet. But we're just gonna have a lot of Under Armour on, a lot of underwear on to just
Yeah,
keep it warm.
I feel like it's the wind that's the worst. Like I can
Oh yeah,
handle the cold, but like the wind that blows on your face, that's what makes it the worst in my opinion.
absolutely. The wind is always the worst.
So that was it for me. Probably just watching the Bruins game last night. That was fun. Really good game. They finally won in regulation the first time in like 9 games. So that's what I would go with.
It's a good one.
Now, which player on the Clemson women's lacrosse team has the best off the field style?
Okay. It's a hard one. I feel like a lot of my teammates have really good style, but I'd probably go with Hannah Hillcoff. Her and I, we love our shoes. So every time you see her, she's probably in a different pair of Jordans. We love to see
Paris, I think you have the best style on the team. And I'm not saying that
it.
because you're on the podcast, so I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Now, what is your most embarrassing lacrosse moment?
Oh, okay. So third grade, when I was really little, I had to go to the porta potty before a game, and then I sprinted back to get in the game, and I was running across the field, and I had toilet paper on my cleat. And my
Uh,
mom will
at
never let me live that down. She always reminds me.
least no one like probably most people don't remember, so that's one
Yeah,
thing to look at it.
I was young, so I mean that's a plus, but that's
Yeah.
by far the most embarrassing.
Yeah, that's tough. I think the worst is when it's like caught on video. Like
Yes,
that's tough. And
absolutely.
then they make like remixes of it and stuff. Like that's I feel like that's gotta be the worst. And I feel like defenders, you're always victims of it too.
Always, always. Your foot slips and you're gonna be on Instagram
Yeah.
somewhere.
How do you just like laugh about it after, or do you just like try not to look at it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean it pops up on my feed all the time, or my teammates are like, have you seen that?" But I mean, all you can do is laugh about it. It's in the past, the game's over now. So I mean, you can blame it on a slip, you can blame on whatever you want, but it
Mhm.
happens. So.
That's why those groundkeepers got to do the best job they can to make the field as good as possible
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you don't want an accidental one too because
Oh no.
that happened in the championship game last year like someone slipped and everyone was calling it like an ankle break but I really couldn't say it because it's like the field was so wet from all the rain that was going on
Yeah,
that day.
exactly. Yeah, sometimes you can see the defender's foot like completely slip too, and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to some more non-lacrosse questions. Who is your celebrity crush?
Another hard one. Another really hard one. I don't really watch too much TV or like movies or anything, so I don't really think I could pick one.
Yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that. I don't know who I would pick. Probably like Natalie Portman because I really like the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good answer for me. Now, one last question on the non-lacrosse segment, which is what is one place on your bucket list that you'd love to visit?
Um, I would want to go to Bora Bora. I know that sounds kind of basic, but it just seems beautiful.
Is that in the Caribbean or like Pacific Islands?
Great question.
Because I've honestly never, this might make me sound like an idiot. I don't never heard of that place before.
I always see like videos on my Instagram and it's like clear water, it just looks gorgeous. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For me, it's the complete opposite. It's like Canada. Love to go to like Toronto, Montreal, like explore that part of the country or part of the continent. I think that would be a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Or like West Coast, somewhere like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get back to some lacrosse questions now. First one is, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Yeah. I think right now, like we're in a really cool position because in South Carolina, lacrosse is not a huge thing, and in the South, it's not really a huge thing. So we get to grow the game and help grow the game. And right now, we just keep reaching out to like the youth of our community and around around Clemson to just get to camps and get a stick in their hand and just help them pick up the game and see if they like it. And, just being able to reach out to the younger kids and just show them that lacrosse is an option. It's a sport out there and it's a great sport to play. And I mean, overall, I just think getting a stick in their hand.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think growing the game, putting it in different areas would be important because I'd love to see an SEC lacrosse
Absolutely.
conference. I think that'd be fun. Like you should try to convince your other South Carolina school to get a team.
Absolutely. I honestly think they probably will in the next few years.
All right, all right. I'll be looking forward to it. That'll be a lot of fun. Well,
Definitely.
speaking of those younger lacrosse players that you help teach, I'm curious, what advice would you give them on what it takes to be a player in college?
Yeah. Just dream big and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. I mean, there's going to be hate out there and there's going to be critics, but just drown them out and focus on you and what you want to accomplish. And just be the hardest worker on the field because that's going to translate so well into the college game. I mean, work hard and you're going to get out of it what you put in.
Well, Paris, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, and friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah. Obviously shout out to my team. Any of them would be great to have on the podcast. We all come from different backgrounds. I mean, a lot of us are transfers and some of us came in as freshmen. So I think that would just be really cool to hear the different perspectives. But just shout out, I got to play with Shea Dolce a lot on Boston College, with like USA and everything. So I just think it'd be awesome to hear from her and her perspective.
Yeah, well, we had her on the podcast in December, so I'll give her a
Yeah,
shout out. So if anyone wants to listen to that, they can go to that
absolutely.
episode. I feel like we've had transfers on from Clemson, and we had obviously
Yeah,
you who've
Shannon.
been we obviously had you on the podcast. We need to get a freshman though. That's the only box we gotta check. So.
Natalie Shirtliff. I think it'd be interesting to hear from her. She was number two ranked coming out of her class. She's a great player.
All right, we'll definitely reach out and see what she might have to say. So, first of all,
Absolutely.
thank you, Paris, for taking time out of your day and coming on. I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to myself and the podcast. I
Yeah,
think you're a great player and an even better person. So, I just want to let you know that.
thank
And
you.
best of luck for the rest of the season. I know you're going to do great, but this was super fun getting the chance to talk with you today. And I really enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.